apples.
We'll be starting with apples.
Hey kids, follow the bouncing plate.
Juggle all of this.
It's a delicate balancing act, but...
Do you often find yourself suffering from writer's cramp? Do your letters trail off at the end of words? Do you use abbreviations for already short words like the, and but? Do you wake up in the morning and look at what you wrote the night before like, what the? Well, do we have the thing for you? Introducing,
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
So, I'm sure you guys are all wondering, what the heck was that? So it turns out Steve and Jared accidentally left their keys to the office, allowing me to just come in and ruin all of their videos, starting with this one. Nah, in all seriousness, today's gonna be something really special. We're gonna be taking time to talk about my past, as well as my future as both a writer and a creator. And I hope you guys like this. You know, this is something new. This is something like I put together, and I felt like it'll be a great way to end my time with the stories. I hope you guys have fun, because I sure did. Hey, welcome to the Storiers. We got something super special planned to you. Our first interview with the one and only Intern Chris. Take a bow. Take a bow. How you doing today? Yeah, so Intern Chris is wrapping up his internship with us pretty soon here. He'll be wrapping it up in, what, a week?
Oh, yeah, pretty much.
It's 2 months went by fast.
Yeah.
Man, it's crazy.
Time of my life.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Chris.
Well, my name's Chris. I've kind of been new to this editing, experience, like videotaping and everything, but this is a nice change of pace for me. I feel like I've learned a lot during the summer and can't wait to share my experience towards the future, to future projects. You've probably seen the little demo I made on the author of this book called Soul Haven. A little story I put together that's been in my mind for the past, had to be 6 or 7 years, 7 years now. And I can't wait to show it to you guys.
It's interesting how long we live with these stories. I think 6, 7 years of you having the kernel of an idea to now actually putting out your own stuff. You know what I'm saying? Sticking with it for that long. You know what I'm saying? That's something to be commended. That's actually a thing that I think turns off a lot of people to the creative process, is how long you have to live with these ideas.
Right.
Especially in our culture, which is like, give it to me now. You know what I'm saying? So like once you even have an idea, it's like, oh, I want to see it. But to nurture it for that long, kind of the same thing Joshy was talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It'll definitely show in the complexity of the story. I'm hoping as it goes further, it'll definitely show how thought out it is and how much you've lived with it. But tell us a little bit more about Soul Haven. What's like the plot? What's the basic setup? Entice us.
Right. The elevator pitch for Soul Haven is about this small group of mutants living in this post-apocalyptic dystopian future type world, and they're basically they're being chased by this dictator who, to his justification, there shouldn't be people with these type of abilities in the first place, but that's the main conflict of the show. And their goal is to find a place where they can call their own, to feel accepted as mutants and to have a fulfilling life, and that's their soul haven. But if you continue reading, you will see that there's a lot of underlying plots and turns that confuse a lot of people's ideals. The one thing I really want to stress about Soul Haven is that there is no good or bad guy. There's probably a protagonist and antagonist, but there's no I'm gonna take over the world, I'm evil for being evil type of villain, you know? Everybody has their motive, everybody has their drive, and once those small little plot lines and twists and turns come into fruition, you begin to question who you really should trust in the show. This is something that has been with me since middle school, so of course I've had my influences here and there, and I'm glad I can finally say that this is like my own thing now, you know?
Let's talk a little bit about some of those influences. Who is somebody you say influenced you the most?
Well, yeah, I definitely wouldn't have even started making comic books if it wasn't for my auntie. We was in the car. It had to have been like, middle school. And basically, she was talking to me, and she kind of realized that I kind of like drawing and here and there, and she was saying like, why don't you make a comic book? It was just something like she just kind of said, like, you know, everything just kind of like exploded in my mind. I was like, I can make a comic book, you know, that would be cool. And I remember that day going home and getting like a copy sheet of paper and just making those like panels. Like, I didn't know how panel composition worked, so it was just panels everywhere. It was a mess, but it was my mess, you know? And then over time I started like having these different characters, and then those characters had started having their own identity slowly. I started picking influences from here and from there, and it's just kind of like culminated to one story that I've over time been fleshing out and sharpening, and it's became super big in my head now. I remember, I know everything from Soul Haven from start to finish. Like, it's crazy. Yeah,
knowing the finish is good. One thing that a lot of writers will tell you is that you should actually know your ending more than you should know anything. If you don't know where you're going, it's going to be a hard time getting there.
the ending is actually going to be my favorite part of all of Soul Haven. I think about it every day,
and that's actually pretty inspiring, man. It's great to have like a family member or a teacher, anybody, somebody there is going to be encouraging, because a lot of times people won't be. Besides Aunt Yodi, tell me a couple of like more of your artistic influences, like in going through that process at a young age. Who's like a comic book artist or a regular writer or a manga artist who are like really...
So in middle school, there is these group of friends, like they always meet up right before science class, and they will discuss about, you know, like Goku did this and blah blah blah, Bulma blah blah blah. I would never know like what they were talking about, and so one day I just butted in. I was like, "What are you guys talking about? It sounds awesome, but like, what are you guys talking about?"
What? You never seen Dragon Ball?
Get out of here, you know. And I felt left out. And so there was a library like right down the street from school. So after that, I was like, okay, Dragon Ball, what is this? You know. And so after school, I walked down and I went to the teen section, and they had a collection of manga. I never knew about manga until that day I decided to do some snooping around for what this Dragon Ball was. Picked up issue 1 of the first series of Dragon Ball, and I just fell in love with the art style ever since. Akira Toriyama. He's like a #1 influence for my designs initially. That I've deviated a little bit from him, like to grab my own style, to see like if I can have like my own identity within the genre that I'm working with. But definitely it's been me constantly trying to mimic Goku, or to draw something that looked like Toriyama, like something like that. It kind of really spoke to me. It was really inspiring seeing like the type of backgrounds and expressive shots he does with the use of his panel work. It's amazing. He's a genius. I love him. Akira Toriyama.
Man, it's just amazing to me, and I say this every time I interview somebody that likes manga. The cultural appreciation between the black community and the Japanese community, and the Chinese community, like the Asiatic communities in general. Confluence of culture is fascinating to me, because you don't necessarily see that thing transcend into the real world in a certain way. You see it through our appreciation of our culture. Like they love hip hop, we love anime and karate movies. Oh, kung fu, martial arts movies, kung fu movies. Let me not call them karate. My woman will kill me. And so that's just interesting to me, man. Because like if you look at a lot of young styles now, a lot of young black artists, their art style is so heavily anime influenced, and I find that fascinating. You know what I'm saying? And it speaks to what we're going to be reading and our kids are going to be reading and looking forward to as a culture. So that kind of thing we pass down. So that love for manga and for those art styles will just be passed down to the next generation. And you and Josh, you actually sold me on actually trying out some anime and manga. I'm going to give it manga. Let me not say manga. Don't come for me. Don't at me.
At least you didn't say I'm going to watch manga.
Oh, yeah.
That would be like a,
yeah, this guy does not know what he's talking. So, okay, Soul Haven, so you've been working on it since middle school. Now you're in college. You're actually moving on it. How does that feel? Explain what made you make the step to actually start putting it out.
I'm glad you asked that because my whole life I've always thought that I was going to be an engineer. I knew I wanted to create something. I knew I wanted to change the world with something I made, but I didn't know quite how. And my family kind of like, it's not their fault, honestly. I was pushed kind of in the wrong direction. I always thought that, you know, if I can make it big as an engineer, I can change the world with something I created. And when I went to school, I hit a brick wall. It was just so toxic within my school about how many math problems you could solve, and then within this amount of time, what grade did you get here and what grade did you get there, and I felt like I lost sight of what I was really inspired by in the first place. You know, like what really drove me to be an engineer. I made the switch. I realized that I wanted to be, you know, an artist. I wanted to create something and express it out in that manner. I've always had that dream, but like I didn't know how exactly I wanted to do it. And so, like that night, freshman year, it was like the last 2 weeks of the semester. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna create Soul Haven. Like, it wasn't called Soul Haven then.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the original title?
It was called Yun Yuan Sozu. And it was,
love it.
yeah, it was a mouthful. It was a real mouthful. But yeah, it was kind of based off the elements of the power set that's in the world, but that's another discussion. But Soul Haven is it's a much better title. So basically I said, you know what, Chris, it's always been in your head. You've always been putting it off, saying like one day after like I make it big as an engineer, maybe I'll do this. You know, it's always been in my head too. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it right now. And like that session, I started doing it for like 6 months. Like it took me 6 months to finish chapter 1, and I never felt better. Actually, I'm glad that it's out there finally, and I can't wait for chapter 2 and chapter 3. Let's keep going, you know.
Yeah. I read issue 1 of Soul Haven. Y'all check it out again on Webtoon.
Again, link right there.
Link right there. Right there. The link's everywhere.
The link just won't stay still.
Yeah. But nah, man. So yeah, like, does that do?
I guess so.